our brain has neurological pathways. Like it goes this way. I think about in college, they had all these winding sidewalks, but there was ruts through the grass, like dirt paths that were worn through the grass because the college students would take the shortcuts. It was hard to take the other way because that was the shortcut, the path was cleared that way. And our brain is like that. So if we think I'm stupid or I'm not worth it or I'm ugly or I don't matter, right? Those are the pathways that our brain goes, and we have to form new pathways.
This is By Joyan Season 2. I'm your host, Joyan Chan, and every Wednesday we bring you inspiring stories, powerful message, and fun conversations with me and my special guests and friends, and it's my personal mission to empower you to live and lead a life with joy. This podcast is for you if you're looking for more joy, courage, passion, and purpose in your life. Now let's dive into today's episode and get ready to laugh, learn, and live your life to the fullest. Joining us today is a yoga educator, keynote speaker, and author of Dancing with Ourselves, a practical guide to harness the ego and live on purpose. She shares how to break free from reactive habits and self-sabotage by teaching practical tools rooted in yoga, psychology, and behavior change. And she's here today to empower you to create more intentional and aligned life, on and off the mat. So ladies and gentlemen, help me in welcoming Brittany Hopkins Sweetlake. Welcome to the show, Brittany.
So happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm really excited to have you here as well. Let's start with your background. So, you're a yoga instructor. Are you still a yoga instructor? I'm just curious.
Yes, I still teach a weekly class and I lead yoga teacher trainings.
Right. I am a fan of yoga. I've been doing yoga for 5, 6, 7 years. Let's stop counting. So you have said that many yoga teacher trainees come into, the class expecting to learn poses, but end up learning how to do life better. So can you first talk to us about how is yoga teaching us how to do life better?
I love that question. Yoga, well, at least in the West, it gets grouped into fitness, into an exercise class. And doctors tell people to go do yoga so that their muscles will be more bendy, when really they will be bendy and they will get stronger. And there's a mindset shift that happens not only in a 60-minute yoga asana practice, but in a yoga teacher training, we dive deeper beyond the poses into the philosophy of yoga. And we see that, it's not just about the shapes that we make on the mat. It is how we show up in the world. And it's getting present. So yoga means to yoke, to unite. And that's what we're doing when we're on the mat. When you go take a yoga class, is you're arriving fully present, body, mind, and spirit. And then the invitation is to take that with you off the mat while you're driving, being fully present to how you're feeling physically, mentally, and emotionally. When you're interacting with a partner or a friend or a colleague or a boss, to be fully present to what's happening. And then you can be practicing yoga at any moment as long as you're practicing presence. And a lot of people call that mindfulness. Mindfulness is another popular term that feels a little bit more accessible, but mindfulness is just another word for yoga.
How does being mindful or being present help improve our lives or relationship in general?
I know for me, often my ego takes me either into the past, like spinning wheels about what happened, what I said, what they said, whatever it is, right? My ego is in the past, which causes my nervous system, usually makes me tighten the chest, is the sensation that I feel. And then when I'm tight in the chest, my breathing starts to get shallow, my heart rate starts to go up, which sends my amygdala, the part of my brain that's fight, flight, freeze, or appease, into action rather than my prefrontal cortex. Or my ego takes me into the future. It's like worried about what could happen, what might happen, what I think should happen, which also causes my chest to tighten or my stomach to drop or whatever it is, right? Nervous system response, which causes my breath to get shallow, my heart rate to go up or get erratic, causing my fight or flight freeze part of my brain to come online again, rather than my thinking part of the brain, my prefrontal cortex. And there's been so much research done that when we get present to our breath and we take even just 2 minutes of on purpose intentional breaths, when we're doing that, when we're getting present to how we're breathing, I'm no longer in the past or the future. I'm right here. And the research shows that when we slow our breathing down, our heart rate steadies and our prefrontal cortex comes back online, and we're thinking clearly, and we can make better choices and wiser choices as our higher self, rather than the ego self that's in the past or the future, rather than in the present.
So when we are present, when we are focusing on our breathing, we are present, is that when we are connected to our true and higher self? And how do we know when ego is, I know you gave some example about thinking about the past or thinking about the future, that is when ego is running the show, I suppose, right? So help us understand when, and how do we recognize when ego is running the show, and or what are some of the common signs telling us that ego is in charge and not our true or higher self?
There are some clues that I use besides the nervous system, like even just getting present to like what's happening in my body, like the tightness in my chest or clenching my jaw or my fists, are clues that I am, in reaction, essentially, like fight, flight, like my hands clenched is like definitely ready to fight off whatever, right? That's a clue that my ego, because really there's not much happening in my day-to-day life that is worth fighting, like the energy of like this needs to happen or not happen, right? Other clues are statements that I hear in my head. Anytime there's the word should involved, this should be this way, or this shouldn't have happened, I shouldn't have said the thing. The word should is a big clue that my ego is running the show rather than my higher self. Or any resistance, like, well, that's just another form of should, right? But like, I think in terms of the drama triangle by Stephen Cartman, a psychologist in the 60s, came up with, anytime we're not feeling powerful or at peace, we're playing the role of victim, rescuer, or persecutor. And so whenever my ego has me thinking, woe is me, I can't do this, it's too hard, those are also phrases that are clues that my ego is running the show. Or the shoulds are the persecutor, and then the rescuer is like either me being a rescuer to someone else, like, let me help you, I'll just do it for you because I'm not comfortable with your discomfort. Or I often reach for chocolate or sugar, any form of sugar, to rescue me from my feelings of discomfort. Whereas my higher self, I know my higher self's in charge when I feel curious, like, I wonder how this is going to work out, versus there's no way it's going to work out. Curiosity is a big part of knowing that my higher self is in charge. When I feel like, yes, this is challenging, but I know that I'm going to be stronger because of the challenge, different than this is too hard. Yeah, those are kind of, it's what's happening in my head. Like, it's the kind of the internal dialogue. Some people would call it the inner critic. Some people would call it the inner child. In yoga, we call it the ego. It's all the same thing. Just like mindfulness is a modern day term for yoga, the inner critic, the inner child is a modern day term for the ego.
Yeah, beautiful. Thanks for sharing all the signs and symptoms. And you talk about, ego is not the enemy. And why do you say ego is not the enemy but a messenger? Like, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, the ego. So many times I've heard people say how to fire the inner critic. And it's like, no, the ego is not going anywhere. We wouldn't be where we are right now without the ego. So like, we wouldn't even be having this conversation because you wouldn't have the desire to have these conversations or put yourself out there to have a podcast. And like, my ego, so I've lovingly named my ego Brandy. I'm Brittany, my ego's Brandy. Just so it feels like it creates a little bit of space from me and these behaviors that are reactive and like less than stellar. But Brandy usually is trying to tell me, my ego is trying to tell me that there's something that I want or that I need. Like it might be I need a snack. It might be that I need a hug. It might be that I need some verbal affirmation or I want some verbal affirmation, right? But when I let Brandy run the show, then she's going to be passive aggressive or openly aggressive. That part of me is going to be, or she often has me shrink like, oh, I don't deserve this. I don't matter. And if I can clue into, oh, there's a part of me that needs something or wants something. And instead of being passive aggressive or reactive in some sort of way, what if I say, oh, thank you for reminding me that I need a hug. So then as my higher self, I can say, can I have a hug? Or can you give me a pep talk? I'm feeling a little insecure right now. Can you remind me that I'm capable and strong? And using my grown up, wise adult words rather than basically Brandy's a 4-year-old version of me. She's a 12-year-old version of me, a 16-year-old version of me. And whatever, those childlike behaviors are not necessarily the most useful way to do things in life as an adult. So harnessing the ego, like, thank you for letting me know. And then as my wise adult, rather than being like, no, get out of here. You're bad. You shouldn't want that, right? Persecuting myself.
So based on what you said, it's interesting because you mentioned if without ego, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. I wouldn't even have the nerve to start a podcast, right? So actually, ego is good in a way to help us, reach our goals, right, in life. So do you agree? Like, is that how we can use or harness the ego to reach our goals in life, or become a better version of ourselves as well? Is that true?
Yeah, exactly. Like it can be like the wind beneath my wings, so to say. Like it's an uplifting thing, just as long as we're not all ego about it. When I grew up dancing, I started dancing when I was 5, and I danced all the way through high school, college, and I went to dance professionally. And if it were all ego, it would have just been about me, me, me. I need to be center stage. I need to, right? But there was always an element of giving a gift. Like I'm on this stage performing as a gift, like to bring joy to the people in the audience. Right. And so it was like a give and take, right? Like I wouldn't be on the stage if I didn't have an ego saying, get up here and do this thing. And at the same time, let's take that, harness that, and shift it into an opportunity to bring joy and share art with others.
Love that. Yeah, so true. We shouldn't see it as an enemy, but how do we dance, using your word, right? Dance with our ego. So when self-sabotage creeps in, how do we first recognize that this is self-sabotage, right? This is not me. Because, sometimes we don't even think about that. Like, we don't even catch ourselves saying, I should do this, I should, things like that, right? In our day-to-day life. So how do we first recognize, and then what do we do about it?
Recognizing is the first thing, right? Seeing that we're reacting.
Yeah.
I feel like most people can relate to, people who drive and have driven in traffic. And it's like somebody cuts them off in traffic. There's a split second thing that happens, right? Whether it's flipping somebody off or yelling a profanity, or again, my ego doesn't often go external. Often she has me shrink and be like, well, clearly I don't matter. Why am I even on the road? Right? I go small.
Wow.
But it's just getting present, arriving in the moment and seeing like, oh my goodness, I just flew off the handle. And most often, Brandy, my ego, is likely to be in charge when I'm tired, when I'm hungry, when I haven't slept, and I haven't exercised or meditated. Like those fundamental needs. Or if I'm in that time of the month where it's just like the second half of my monthly cycle, it's just like, we just got to be a little bit more delicate in the dancing because Brandy is going to be really reaching for the steering wheel to drive me around in life. Right. And so it's just getting familiar with when I'm more reactive. And it's like, oh, okay, I am hungry. I need a snack. So even just that's a tool, like just noticing, checking in, when am I more likely to be reactive? Is it at the end of the day? Is it in the morning before I've had coffee? Is it, right? So getting present to when it's happening. And then the tools are, one is just honestly naming that part of myself has been really impactful. As strange as it sounds to like refer to yourself in the third person, it really is helpful. It's most helpful actually with my closest friends and with my husband. My husband is Adam, his ego is Alex, and sometimes Brandy and Alex really just have a hard time. But I can just be like, oh, Brandy is trying to let me know that I want or need something right now. And so I can be like, Brandy wanted me to tell you. With him, it's funny because his ego is more like a little bit more walled off. And so Alex is like kind of grandiose and one up. He's the one that's just like, no, you're wrong. Right. And so it's an interesting dance between the two egos in a marriage. So naming the ego as a tool, getting present to when I'm more likely to be reactive, like when am I more likely to be hungry or tired? And then honestly, meditation has been a huge, huge tool for me in getting present to what my ego says. Like often people think meditation means like sitting in silence with no thoughts.
Yeah.
But thoughts are never going to go anywhere. It's just practicing getting in front of the thoughts. And so I do a type of meditation that's called mantra meditation, and I'll say something like so hum over and over for 5 to 30 minutes, depending on how much time I have. So hum is Sanskrit for I am. I am. The ego assigns things after the I am. I am a mom. I am an author. I am smart or stupid or whatever, right? And so the meditation practice is practicing being with just the I am, and then witnessing when the ego jumps in and says all these other things about who I am or what I should be doing. And so being willing to sit in stillness and meditation is another practice of getting present to how my ego shows up inside my head.
Yeah. I'm still trying to get to the it's funny when I say that, what should we do? Like when you talk about shit, right? What should we do when we notice ourselves criticizing ourselves or judging ourselves? Like, what is really one practical step in that moment? What is one practical step? Maybe one thing we say to ourselves, right, to interrupt the pattern. Yeah, I think you answered the question, like naming ourselves, the ego part, right? Just call out the name, right? Like, this is not me, right? Is that one practical step we can shift out of that and into an empowering state?
There's a formula I often say to myself throughout a day. I'll check in. I call it a check-in. Right now, physically, I feel fill in the blank. Right now, mentally, I feel fill in the blank. Right now, emotionally, I feel and fill in the blank, which is a practice of getting present to what I'm feeling. Like right now, I'm feeling a little bit caffeinated physically. I feel mentally alert, and emotionally, I feel happy, right? That's this moment. But in another moment, when my ego's in charge, I might feel exhausted. I might feel cloudy, and I might feel overwhelmed, right? And so after I fill in those 3 blanks, I say, it makes sense that you feel that way. And it might make sense that I feel that way because of something that happened 20 years ago that still is in my nervous system and in my presence. Or it might make sense that I feel that way because I have 2 children and I'm a working professional, right? So that sentence usually lands, and it's like it softens the grip of my ego. especially when I'm tired, cloudy, and overwhelmed. It's like, no, it makes sense that you feel that way. You got a lot going on, and it might be turn into a pep talk for myself. But we're not trying to spiritually bypass how we're feeling to be positive. It's like, no. And then from there, so I feel physically, mentally, emotionally this. It makes sense that I feel that way. And I choose to be, and I set an intention for how it is that I want to be. Or I might say I'm open to the possibility of. I really like that statement because it's a little less graspy or like things have to be a certain way. But I'm open to the possibility of having a good day anyway. Or I'm open to the possibility of being able to go with the flow. So that wasn't necessarily one step. I think that was 4 steps, 5 steps.
No, of course. Yeah.
One formula.
Yeah, one formula. So how often should we do a check-in with ourselves using the 4-5 step system?
Now it feels like a habit that I do, but when I first started, I would set an alarm in my phone, like personal check-in. Could be 8 a.m., could be noon, could be 4 p.m., 8 p.m. Like just throughout the day, just a little reminder that goes off to check in because it takes literally 30 seconds. Right now, physically, I feel, emotionally, I feel, mentally, I feel, right? It makes sense that I feel that way. And I'm open to the possibility of moving forward.
Yeah. So for someone, I'm just thinking about my listeners because I know some of them have been struggling with confidence for their whole life, And if someone listening to this feels like their inner critic has been running their entire life, it's almost impossible to start to be like, you say like being positive to yourself, like being gentle, being kind to yourself. It's not going to happen overnight, right? Do you have another practice or another question for them, so that they can start just making a small little shift? It's not like I'm going to change overnight. It's not going to happen. We all know that, right? Done that, try that. It's not happening. So yeah, what is one shift, just a small little shift so that they can start seeing the possibility that can change?
Yeah, you bring up a really valid point because, I always ask my students, how long have you been thinking this way? And it's like, however old you are, right? And it's not, again, the ego's not going anywhere. But there's a practice I talk about in my book that I actually got from, I'm spacing on her name right now, but it's a neuro-linguistic programming exercise. And just a little bit of context, our brain has neurological pathways. Like it goes this way. I think about in college, they had all these winding sidewalks, but there was ruts through the grass, like dirt paths that were worn through the grass because the college students would take the shortcuts through there. And so it was hard to take the other way because that was the shortcut, the path was cleared that way. And our brain is like that. So if we think I'm stupid or I'm not worth it or I'm ugly or I don't matter, right? Those are the pathways that our brain goes, and we have to form new pathways. But this neurolinguistic programming exercise, first it has us say this pathway, like I'm not good enough. And then we have to link it up to I'm capable or I'm good enough, right? It could be the opposite, or mine is usually the feeling that my ego has is that I'm not good enough, but my higher self knows that I'm capable. And so the exercise is to write down 4 times, I'm not good enough, I'm capable. 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 And then set an alarm in your phone. Again, this alarm thing is helpful. 4 times a day, say it 4 times through for 2 days. And then on the 3rd day, take off the first part and just do the second part. I'm capable and strong, or I'm capable, 4 times a day. What's fascinating is that by the end of the first day, I might start to say I'm not good enough, but my brain is already going the new way. It's already adding it on. So we first have to say this is the pattern. Instead of this, the pattern, now we're doing this way and this way is the pattern. And now we're saying this way is the pattern. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get what you mean. And it's all about forming the new pattern, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how many days again are you saying that we need to do the exercise? 2 days.
Do it for 4 days. 2 days with both parts.
Yeah.
And 2 days with just the one part, the second part.
2 days enough?
It's surprising. Well, you're saying it 4 times a day. So you're really saying it 16. No. Yeah. 4. Yes. You're saying it 16 times in one day because you're doing it at 8 a.m., noon, 4 p.m., and 8 p.m.
Yeah.
You're doing both. So you're doing it 32 times, and your brain is our brain is malleable. Our brain is malleable. That's what's crazy. There's been so much research on the study of our brains on meditation that a consistent practice of meditation decreases the gray matter in the part of our brain for stress and increases the part of our brain for learning and memory. They see it on MRIs that our brain shrinks in one area and grows in the other area. So our brain is really malleable. We just have to be intentional with how we sculpt it, I guess, is what I want to say.
Yeah. So what are your other non-negotiable daily practices or habits or exercises that help you stay aligned with your higher self? Even especially on difficult days, like you don't even feel like meditating at all. Just that day, like feel so low and down, and I'm just saying, right, or anxious, like you don't, or just you just don't want to meditate, because I know I had those days, like I just don't want to meditate, right? So what do you do? What are some of your non-negotiables? Like, do you still force yourself to meditate? Because I don't know, like it feels against like the purpose of meditation, right? So what do you do on those especially difficult days?
I usually have to trick myself. I'll if I say that I don't want to meditate, I will say we'll just start with 2 minutes. We're going to sit here for 2 minutes and follow the breath. And my favorite, like, if Brandy's like, no, we are not going to say a mantra, like, I will just follow my breath. I will say to myself, I'm breathing in as I breathe in. I'm breathing out as I breathe out. And in my mind, I'm just saying, I'm breathing in as I breathe in. I'm breathing out as I breathe out for 2 minutes. And usually at the end of the 2 minutes, I want to keep going. So I trick myself. I'm like, just 2 minutes. You can do anything for 2 minutes. And then the same thing with exercise I'll just say 10 minutes. Like, we're just going to go for a 10-minute walk. And then at the end of the 10, like maybe 5 minutes in, I feel like running, or 10 minutes in, I feel like keeping on walking, but like moving my body, like moving the energy. I'm not going to necessarily, other days it's like, I'm going to walk through the doors of the gym. That's the goal, just to walk through the doors of the gym. And I get there and then I'm like, okay, we're going to do the warm up. I'm not committing to an hour-long practice or hour-long weightlifting session, whatever it is. I'm going to commit to just the next step, is how I talk myself into doing the thing that I know will have me feeling better. But sometimes my ego is just so in charge that it's like, no, we're not doing 60 minutes of anything, right? It's like, we're going to do 2 minutes. She'll give me 2 minutes or 10 minutes, depending on whether it's meditation or exercise.
Yeah, it's all about focusing on the next step, right? Because when you focus on the whole process, the end results, you get overwhelmed. Like most people get overwhelmed, right? Just by thinking about the 1 hour of exercise or even 30 minutes of meditation. So yeah, it's the whole purpose, right? I said, so yeah, thank you so much for sharing all the practical tips. It is so helpful. Is there anything else that you really want to talk about, perhaps I didn't ask you or didn't let you?
No, I think that pretty well covers it. I mean, if anybody wants to know more about each of these practices, my book, it's on Audible if you are a listener. It's on Kindle if you're an ebook reader. Yeah, so the book has got embarrassing stories essentially about when Brandy was taking the lead, and then the tools I used to take the lead back from Brandy and move forward as my higher self.
Love it. Yeah. So yeah, tell my people if they want to learn more about your work, or connect with you. If they have other questions which I didn't ask, where should I send them?
Yeah, BrittanyHopkins.com. That's BrittanyHopkins.com. And then I'm on Instagram, and I have a YouTube channel. I have a bunch of free videos on YouTube, 10-minute practices for those that are like, no, I'm not going to do 60 minutes of yoga. I got the 10 minutes to trick you into doing it, free on YouTube.
Yeah, I learned so much about tricking ourselves into doing something from you today. So thank you so much for that again, for your time and your generous sharing. Now, guys, if you are still here with us, it means you love this episode, right? Basically, remember to like and subscribe so you never miss another episode coming to you every Wednesday. And thanks for listening. I wish you all a joyful and amazing day ahead. Bye. Thank you again for tuning into Find Joy Joyan podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, take a screenshot and share it on your IG story and tag Find Joy Joyan _podcast so I know you are listening. And leave us a positive review on Apple Podcasts if you haven't already done so. And remember to hit the subscribe button whether you are listening on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, or any of your other favorite platforms. If you love what we are doing and want to become one of our sponsors, you can send me a DM to connect. And thanks for being here. I will see you soon in the next episode.